This is going to be a difficult video. It is not one in which I can present a coherent and nicely structured argument or line of reasoning or anything like that and present you with a snappy conclusion and you can take it from there. I'm afraid in this particular case I'm going to just have to sit here and ramble for a bit. I'm going to try and keep it short as I can, but I'm going to have to just go with the flow, and I hope you can put up with that. Okay. What I want to talk about is something that of course has been very prominent here in the last couple of days, and that's the Oklahoma thing. And I could of course look at it from a certain perspective and make the arguments and present the ideas that have already been put forward quite a lot, but I wouldn't really be adding anything to this discussion. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to present my thoughts in a pro-life type of a way. I would consider myself to be, to a large extent, pro-life, if you could call it that way. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not going to go into what constitutes a human being, and whether you as a listener like it or not. In my opinion, a fetus is not a human being. So there are circumstances in which I will not even have to think twice about the rights or wrongs of an abortion, and I would just say accept that an abortion is a solution to a problem. Rape or a danger to a woman's life are just two examples that come to mind. And I'm not willing to debate that or discuss that. If you disagree with me with the notion that a fetus is not a human being, then sorry, we have to disagree on that. But what I will say quite happily is that I think that an abortion is a terrible, terrible waste. We are not just talking about something like an abstract potential, but we are talking about something, a fetus, that has been allowed to develop to a large extent towards becoming a human being. So the potential is being realized during the pregnancy. It's a slow, gradual process, granted, but it is a process that is being realized. And by the time you get to an abortion, it has often gotten to the point where, if left alone, it will almost certainly result in a successful pregnancy and therefore a human being. So it is a terrible, terrible waste. And in all fairness, with the exceptions of the sort of things that I was talking about before, and many other things, I've spoken about this before in other videos, I would just love to see abortion removed, to not see it happening again. So I can sort of understand why people would feel compelled to do something about this. And this is the sort of rationale that I want to present here, because even if you take that point of view, even if you accept that abortion is something that we should try and eliminate as best as possible as a solution to a problem, I think what has happened in Oklahoma is completely counterproductive, and it is actually going to cause more misery than it's going to solve. Think about what you're doing here. First of all, realize that whether we like it or not, abortion has been part of what it means to be human for as long as anything has been on this planet that could be called Homo sapiens or Homo anything. The most primitive, between quotes, the most hunter-gatherer based societies on this planet possess the knowledge of what they can find in their environment to help terminate unwanted pregnancies. Women do, out of desperation, do anything they can, from taking poisonous substances to physically interfering with the pregnancy in order to terminate it. To deny that this is happening is idiotic and dangerous. And that is the problem. That is the problem with what's behind what they're trying to do in Oklahoma, because it is not going to change the fact that some women are desperate enough to want their pregnancy terminated, and they will do what it takes to have it terminated. And now we're in a position where, in order to do this, even though termination as such is a legal procedure in Oklahoma, they are forced through a procedure that is so humiliating, so intrusive, and so horrible that they will feel afraid to actually undergo it, that they feel compelled to look for alternatives. And now we need to think about what effect that will have on a young woman who's looking for termination of a pregnancy. Now, first of all, in the earlier stages of a pregnancy, there is a human tendency, whether you like to hear this or not, I don't care, there is a human tendency of denial, hoping that it will all just go away. Whether that's rational or not, that is what a lot of people will do. So to have to face this hump of being humiliated and being forced through this procedure will cause a lot of women who find themselves pregnant to hang on to this longer. But ultimately they will still have to go and take the option of going for an abortion. So one of the side effects of this legislation will be that more women will be opting for later abortions. Now, I don't agree with the idea that a fetus is a human being, but the longer you go into a pregnancy, the more it has grown to become one. The more likely it is that you're dealing with something that is on its way to become sentient. So if you are opposed to abortion, I think you need to realize that this side effect will cause more harm to potentially sentient beings. Have you thought about that? That is something that you need to consider if you consider yourself to be pro-life and anti-abortion. You see, the way to stop abortion is not to legislate against it and making it more difficult or making it illegal or whatnot. Because I'll tell you what that will result in. That will result in more of this. The amateur dark alleyway abortion with a coat hanger. Is that something that you want to have on your conscience? Then by all means, keep supporting this type this type of legislation, because that is what will happen, whether you like it or not. Or in the mildest possible scenario, it will lead to people having to spend their money, having to go for financial hardship in order to procure their abortions out of state, where they can undergo the procedure in a dignified manner. And even if you're completely cynical, you should consider that that means money that's going out of the economy of your state and into the economy of another one. Just in case arguments based on human empathy cut no ice with you. So think about what you're doing. If you want to eliminate abortion as best as you can, as I would like to do, then realize that the only way you can achieve that, the only true way you can achieve that, is by education. Understand that people, when they know about contraception, when they know about sexual activity, when they understand the risks associated with sexual activity, that will lead to a true and sustainable reduction in the number of abortions. Draconian, humiliating, oppressive measures only lead to hurt, pain, and misery. So maybe, Oklahoma, you might like to reconsider the legislation that you're trying to push here.